Mellow greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet. Today, we are going to be coming back with a reoccurring segment titled, What the hell's going on with the police state? Now, before I get started, I felt it was important to explain to everybody that out of anything we cover, or any segment I might have done here over the last year, this is undoubtedly my least favorite. This is one of the parts of covering media and politics and law enforcement that I absolutely despise. Not only because I have to literally read hundreds of articles and watch hundreds of videos about how police time and time again dehumanize the people around them because they are an insulated group unto themselves who are essentially beyond reproach and act as their own private Gestapo anytime it pleases them. But worse than that is that reading those articles and watching those videos also comes with the unfortunate side effect of having to read tens of thousands of comments from bootlicking cop apologists who want nothing more in life than to be told what to do. And they assume that if they themselves are willing to allow an external organization to subjugate them, that everybody else should be okay with it too, especially if those police reflect the ideology or the morals of the person consenting to this sort of thing in the first place. So I'm going to try to get through all of this because anytime we do a segment dedicated to the police state, it's always more than one story. So here we go. Capitol Police told to hold back on riot response on January 6th, report finds. Despite being tipped that Congress itself is the target on January 6th, Capitol Police were ordered not to use their most powerful crowd control weapons, according to a scathing new watchdog report. For anybody like myself, who has ever attended a protest, and has had the police deploy their most powerful crowd control weapons on them, I can tell you that myself and everybody else has been painfully aware for years now that the police have a choice as to whether or not they deploy these sort of weapons and these sort of tactics to hurt people, to be punitive, to seek retribution against people in the community for daring to come out and protest or yell. This isn't a surprise. The only surprise here is that there was actually a paper trail left of the command structure, which showed that these were actual orders. And it wasn't just a few Capitol Police, who were the bad apples or decided to act independently. Once again, as with all issues with the police, these are always top-down problems. And that's why the culture and the mentality never changes. Next, Marvin Scott III died in Texas police custody. His family will protest until the officers involved are arrested. Though 7 of the sheriff's officers have been fired after initially being put on administrative leave, and another resigned while under investigation, the family and protesters say they don't plan to stop until the officers have been charged with a crime. As always, the police engage in incremental public theater. Oh, well, first we'll suspend those officers and we'll see if the protests die down. No, they haven't died down. Okay, now we're going to suspend them without pay. Maybe that'll help, the people will calm. Oh no, that's not going to calm them down either. Okay, now we're going to tell people that we're going to investigate ourselves. Surely that'll keep the No, they're still going to protest. Okay, maybe we'll discuss firing the police in the hopes that a couple of them will retire, and then, those bad apples won't be on the job anymore, and hopefully people will stop No, that's not going to work either. And this is what happens every step of the way. The police see how little they can get away with doing to buy off the public, to get them down to a point where they're calm enough that things can go back to business as usual. On March 14th, Scott was arrested in Allen, nearly 15 miles from where he lived in Frisco, on a marijuana charge. Authorities said he had less than 2 ounces, a misdemeanor. The 26-year-old who received a schizophrenic diagnosis 2 years later sometimes used the drug to self-medicate, according to the family's lawyer. After Allen officers transported him to Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital for what police called strange behavior, he was taken to the county jail. There, officers restrained him, used pepper spray, and covered his head with a spit hood, a controversial device meant to keep a person from biting or spitting on an officer. Scott became unresponsive late that night and was pronounced dead at a hospital. I wish I could say that this is a random occurrence, but time and time again, it has been shown that restraining people, especially people in some form of moderate physical or mental distress, then dousing them with chemicals and then putting a bag over their head until they asphyxiate, that sort of thing sometimes leads to the death of people. The police, however, are unconcerned with whether or not people live or die. They are solely concerned with themselves, their fellow officers, and making sure that their family gets to draw off their state-funded pension and their state-funded health insurance. Those are the only three things that members of the law enforcement community care about. And if you don't believe me, well, hey, here's this lovely story that just came out of Boston that shows that the Boston police kept a secret. The union president was an alleged child molester, and they've known he was a child molester since 1995. But again, police only care about themselves, each other, and their pensions. So they circled the wagons with their thin blue line. They kept him on the job. They even let him be a lead investigator on cases concerning teenage rape victims. Eventually, he got charged with 33 counts of child sexual assault. And the whole time, the other police knew. And not only did they turn away, they actively helped hide him while he accumulated more years in service so that he and his family could get that sweet, publicly funded pension. And now your update on the Derek Chauvin trial regarding the killing of George Floyd. Please note, I have done absolutely no coverage of this case. Why? Because frankly, I have seen this show 100 times before. I know how it ends, and I have no urge to sink more time into the faint hope that, quote, justice will be served, because the system is purposely built to protect the cops and the people who employ them, not to get justice for everybody else. However, here's your update. Judge Peter Cahill said closing arguments for Derek Chauvin's murder trial are expected to happen on Monday, April 19th. Dr. Jonathan Rich, a Chicago-based cardiologist, testified on Monday that George Floyd's heart was deprived of oxygen because of how he was restrained by Derek Chauvin. The judge denied a request on Monday to sequester the jury after unrest escalated in Minneapolis following the fatal police shooting of Daunte Wright. We'll get to that in just a second. And Hennepin County Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Andrew Baker told the court that while Floyd's health and drug use may have contributed to his death, it was the police officer's actions that were the direct cause. As always, it doesn't matter how compelling the evidence or the testimony is in any of these police killing trials. What it all comes down to is if there is one person on the jury who steadfastly will not vote to convict a cop for any crime because they're the cops and they support the thin blue line and they back the blue, well then, it doesn't matter how much evidence you have. The only thing that matters is one bootlicker telling 10 actual human beings with empathy to go fuck themselves. And then that cop, like all the other ones before them, get to go free. And now we talk about Daunte Wright, another young black person who was killed by police literally 3 miles from where the Derek Chauvin trial is currently happening because police literally can't stop killing people. And if you think that is a bad argument, or I'm somehow conflating, or I'm strawmanning, or I'm gaslighting, or I'm exaggerating, or whatever the fuck it is you think I do here, here's your reminder that in the entire calendar year of 2020, there were a total of 17 days that the police across America didn't kill at least one person. Cop, police chief, resigned 2 days after black motorist's death. A white police officer who fatally shot a black man during a traffic stop in a Minneapolis suburb resigned Tuesday, as did the city's police chief. Moves that the mayor said he hoped would help heal the community and lead to reconciliation after 2 nights of protests and unrest. But police and protesters faced off once again after nightfall on Tuesday, with hundreds of protesters gathering again at Brooklyn Center's heavily guarded police headquarters, now ringed by concrete barriers and a tall metal fence, and where police in riot gear and National Guard soldiers stood watch. Murderopolis was scrawled with black spray paint on a concrete barrier. That's right, the police and local and state governments never have enough money to do things like, let kids eat free lunch in school, but they always have money for more militarized gear, more police overtime, and another quarter to pop in the payphone to call the governor and deploy the National Guard. The resignations from Officer Kim Potter and Police Chief Tim Gannon came 2 days after the death of 20-year-old Daunte Wright in Brooklyn Center. Potter, a 26-year veteran, had been on administrative leave following Sunday's shooting, which happened as the Minneapolis area was already on edge over the trial of an officer charged in George Floyd's death. Brooklyn Center Mayor Mike Elliott said at a news conference that the city had been moving towards firing Potter when she suddenly resigned. Elliott said he hoped her resignation would bring some calm to the community, but that he would keep working towards full accountability under the law. Quote, "We have to make sure that justice is served, justice is done. Daunte Wright deserves that. His family deserves that." Well, hey, Mayor, it sounds like you at least got half of that right. The victim and their family do deserve justice. However, nobody on God's green earth thinks that you, your administration, or a bunch of attorney generals are going to go out of their way to stick it to the cop who killed yet another unarmed black person. Gannon has said he believed Potter mistakenly grabbed her gun when she was going for her taser. She can be heard on body camera shouting, "Taser, taser." However, protesters and Wright's family members say there's no excuse for the shooting, and it shows how the justice system is tilted against black people, noting Wright was stopped for an expired car registration and ended up dead. Elliott said the department has about 49 police officers, none of whom live in Brooklyn Center. He said he didn't have information on racial diversity at hand, but that, quote, "We have very few people of color in our department." The modest suburb just north of Minneapolis has seen its demographics shift dramatically in recent years. In 2000, more than 70% of the city was white. Today, a majority of residents are black, Asian, or Hispanic. But don't worry, almost all the cops and all the politicians are still white. You know, the ones that control the money and control who lives and dies. Oh, and in case you were wondering, it's almost impossible to confuse your taser from your service weapon. Your service weapon weighs almost 3 times as much as a taser and has a safety on the trigger that you can feel. The taser is lightweight and doesn't have that. Also, Potter is a 26-year veteran and should probably know the difference between the things she uses to punish people and the things she uses to kill people. And now here's a little more information on Kim Potter, the killer of Daunte Wright. Brooklyn Center police officer fatally shot 20-year-old Daunte Wright in what police say was an accidental discharge of her gun was identified late Monday as Kim Potter, a 26-year veteran of the force who has since resigned from her position. If you're wondering why she resigned, let me explain it to you. If you resign, you get to retire with your entire pension intact. For somebody who's been on a force for 26 years, that literally means 6 figures a year of free money paid by taxpayers every single day for the rest of Kim Potter's life. However, if she is an active member of the force and she is charged with a crime and then subsequently convicted, well, then she and her family will lose all of those welfare benefits. And God forbid a member of law enforcement or their family can't fully suckle at the teat of the general public that they're charged with supposedly protecting while they're actually killing them. Kim Potter was elected to represent her department's officers as president of the Brooklyn Center Police Officers Association in 2019 and was a longtime member of the Minnesota Law Enforcement Memorial Association, where she served on the casket team, and honor guard duty where she would function as a guard or pallbearer for law enforcement funerals. In other words, Kim was deeply involved in her local union and understood exactly what was at stake in regards to her pension via potential possible charges in the future, and decided that she would rather take her 7-figure umbrella and jump out the plane now and just slowly drift to the ground while getting paid by everybody else in Minneapolis, including the family of the person that she killed. And last but not least, it turns out that Potter was acting as a field training officer, training a new officer on Sunday when she fatally shot Wright. Yes, police training involves taking newbies out and showing them the proper way to execute black people and then lie about it. See, people, you don't just develop that over time. It's literally trained into you once you join the force. And it turns out, as of half an hour ago, the Minnesota officer, Kim Potter, who killed Daunte Wright, will be charged with manslaughter. Not murder, manslaughter. And of course, those manslaughter charges will become official 2 minutes after her resignation is accepted and she signs the paperwork to get her pension and medical benefits for life. Now, I know this is the part of the video where I normally sum it all up and come up with some witty quip on the way out, you know, so y'all remember the video and like and share it. Honestly, I could care fucking less today. What I care about is the fact that yet again, for another day, I still live in a country under a system that makes it perfectly legal and allowable to execute people at will as long as you are a gang member and you're wearing the proper gang colors. So maybe, just maybe, it is long fucking past time that we end qualified immunity for police officers, because until there is some system of accountability, and obviously we can't count on police and courts to be that system of accountability, well then the police are going to continue executing whoever they want, whenever they want, however they want. So it's time to organize and get loud. It's time to agitate. It is time to make sure that your elected officials and representatives know that if bills to end qualified immunity don't start making their way through state houses and up through the fucking hall of the House in Washington, D.C., that these politicians will continuously be voted out of office every single election cycle until this shit happens. Till next time, my name is James. I am from the internet and I'm out. Peace.